Ethan adjusted the strap of his bag as he stepped into the corridor of the new apartment building. The hum of the colony station filled the air, a gentle vibration that humans had grown used to over the years. It had been a long journey from Earth to this frontier planet, but the opportunity to work as an engineer in the interstellar colony was worth every moment. The building was quieter than he expected. Most residents were at work or exploring the nearby terrain. He stopped in front of the apartment door labeled 7B and took a deep breath. The colony administrators had told him that his new roommate was unusual, but Ethan assumed it was just some alien eccentricity. That was the norm here. Humans and aliens shared living spaces, and while some species were more expressive than others, Ethan thought he could handle it. He opened the door and was greeted by the faint smell of ozone mixed with something sweet he couldn't quite identify. The apartment was tidy, but the furniture was strange. Chairs molded from a semi-transparent material floated slightly above the ground, and a low table seemed to ripple when he touched it. Ethan frowned. "Okay," he muttered to himself, "definitely unusual." He set his bag down and began exploring the small kitchen. As he unpacked a few supplies, he heard soft humming from the other room. It didn't sound like music, and it wasn't a voice. It was a vibration in the air, almost like the building itself was singing. Curious, Ethan followed the sound, thinking he might meet his roommate at last. He approached the door marked 7C, assuming this was where Leora, his alien roommate, might be. The humming grew louder, and the light beneath the door flickered with strange, shifting colors. He reached for the handle, and before he could think, he pushed it open. The sight that greeted him froze him in place. Leora stood in the center of the room. Her form was humanoid, but not entirely human. Her skin shimmered faintly with a soft blue light, and her eyes were larger than any human's, reflecting a spectrum of colors Ethan couldn't name. Around her, small objects floated in midair, spinning slowly. They glowed with a pale, inner light, and tiny symbols appeared on them in a language Ethan couldn't understand. She was humming, the sound vibrating through the room, interacting with the floating objects in ways that made the air itself shimmer. Ethan's mouth went dry. For a moment, he wasn't sure if he should close the door and leave, or if he was witnessing something incredible. Leora turned slowly. She didn't seem startled, angry, or embarrassed. Her eyes met his, and she spoke, not with words he could immediately understand, but with a melodic tone that carried meaning in the vibration of the air itself. Ethan felt the meaning more than heard it. "You are here. You should not be." He cleared his throat nervously. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I thought this was." His words faltered. There were no words for what he was seeing. Leora extended a hand, and the floating objects hovered closer to her, forming a circle around her. She spoke again, this time with her voice slightly adapted to human hearing. "It is not a problem, human. You are curious. That is understandable." Ethan swallowed hard. "Curious? Yeah, that's me. I didn't mean to intrude." He gestured awkwardly toward the objects. I don't even know what I'm looking at." Leora's eyes softened. The colors in them shifted like sunlight on water. "You are seeing a part of me that is private, but it is not dangerous. This is how I maintain balance. My species requires interaction with energy fields to remain healthy. Humans cannot see it, but it exists everywhere." Ethan blinked. "Energy fields." He took a cautious step forward. "So, you're saying this, all this is normal for you?" "Yes," Leora replied, her voice calm and melodic. "For us, it is as natural as breathing. For you, it may seem strange, even frightening, but it is not harmful." Ethan nodded slowly. "I see, I think, maybe." He looked at the floating symbols again, fascinated. "So you control these things with your mind?" Leora smiled faintly. "Not control, interaction. We do not force the universe to obey. We work with it, understand it, and it responds. You humans are creative in your own way. Perhaps you could learn to sense it if you tried." Ethan felt a spark of excitement. Here he was, in a small apartment on a distant colony, and he was witnessing something beyond anything he had ever imagined. He realized then that he had been nervous about living with an alien, but maybe this was exactly what he had wanted: an adventure, a chance to learn, to see the galaxy in ways humans rarely experienced. Over the next few hours, Ethan watched Leora interact with the energy field. He asked questions carefully, trying not to interrupt the delicate patterns of movement and light. Leora explained slowly, in human words she adapted herself to, that the objects represented ideas, memories, and emotions, all connected through energy. Each one could be shaped, examined, and understood, but only through a combination of focus, empathy, and resonance. Ethan found himself fascinated, forgetting the initial shock and fear. He realized he had never seen anyone or anything like Leora. The room shimmered around her, a living demonstration of a mind connected to the universe in ways humans could barely comprehend. And yet, Leora seemed calm, peaceful, almost serene. When the light finally dimmed and the floating objects gently settled onto the surfaces around the room, Ethan felt a mix of awe and relief. He had not expected to walk in and see this. It was nothing like he had imagined when he agreed to share an apartment with an alien. Leora noticed his expression and chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to vibrate pleasantly in his chest. "You are human. You are always amazed by the things you cannot yet understand." Ethan smiled, feeling a little embarrassed. "Yeah, I guess I am. Wow. I didn't know something like this existed, and now I'm living with it." Leora's gaze softened. "Then perhaps it is good that you came. Curiosity is valuable. It opens doors that fear keeps closed. You may learn much here, human, if you are willing." Ethan nodded, feeling a mix of humility and excitement. He had come to this colony thinking he would face technical challenges and maybe cultural misunderstandings. Instead, he found himself facing a reality more vast and intricate than he could have imagined. That night, Ethan lay in bed in the small, human-designed section of the apartment, staring at the ceiling and thinking about what he had seen. He realized that Leora's presence was not just unusual, it was extraordinary, and he felt a growing sense of purpose. Perhaps his life here would not only be about his work as an engineer, but also about understanding, learning, and growing, alongside a being from a world he could barely comprehend. Sleep came slowly, but when it did, Ethan dreamed not of machines and colony schedules, but of light, energy, and floating symbols. He dreamt of the galaxy in a way he had never imagined, and in his heart, he knew that waking life would soon be just as incredible. The next morning, Ethan awoke with a sense of anticipation. He could hear the faint hum of the colony waking outside his window. Today, he thought, he would truly meet his alien roommate, not just in passing, not by accident, but with purpose. He wanted to understand, to learn, and perhaps, in some small way, to connect. And as he opened his eyes, he saw Leora already in the living area, quietly arranging her floating objects in new patterns, ready to begin another day of interaction with the invisible energies of the universe. Ethan smiled. For the first time since he arrived, he felt that living on this distant planet could be more than just a job. It could be an adventure that would change him forever. The morning light spilled into the apartment, casting a soft glow over the floating objects that had returned to their usual positions. Ethan sat at the small table, sipping a cup of synthetic coffee while watching Leora move gracefully among her items. Unlike yesterday, he felt more composed, less startled, and more curious. He wanted to understand her world, and today he would try to learn more. "Good morning," Ethan said, his voice steady. "Are you awake?" Leora turned her head slightly, her eyes shimmering as they reflected the soft light of the colony. "I am always aware, human, but this morning I am focused on observing you as well." Ethan chuckled nervously. "Observing me? That's a little strange." She tilted her head, the colors in her eyes shifting like ripples in water. "Strange to you, yes, but humans often reveal themselves through observation. It is a useful skill. Curiosity pushed Ethan to ask the question that had been on his mind since yesterday. Can you explain more about what you do with these objects? The floating ones. Leora's gaze softened. These are representations of energy, memories, and emotions. My species interacts with them to maintain our balance, our health, and our clarity of thought. Humans rely on sleep and rest, but we require this interaction. It keeps our mind and body synchronized. Ethan nodded slowly, fascinated. So it's like meditation. In a sense, she said, but it is also communication with the universe. You may not perceive it, but all things emit energy. We connect with it and understand its flow. Ethan leaned forward. Could you teach me? Leora smiled faintly. You are human. You cannot sense it fully yet, but perhaps you can learn to perceive some aspects. It requires focus and a willingness to observe without judgment. Ethan spent the next several hours trying. At first, he saw nothing. The objects were just floating pieces of light, meaningless and incomprehensible. But slowly, as he relaxed and allowed his mind to adjust, he began to notice subtle shifts, colors that changed in response to his thoughts, tiny movements that seemed to react to his emotions. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. You are improving, Leora said, her voice calm and melodic. Humans are limited in perception, but they are clever. Your mind seeks patterns, and that is useful. Ethan smiled, feeling a small victory. I didn't think I could do this at all. Leora's eyes reflected a deeper light, almost like approval. You are capable. Human ingenuity is remarkable. You find solutions where others see obstacles. As the days passed, Ethan and Leora developed a rhythm. Ethan learned to help her manage her floating objects, adjusting them gently to align with her energy patterns. In return, Leora began teaching him more about her species, their culture, their history, and the way they interacted with the universe. One afternoon, Ethan was fixing a minor power issue in the apartment when Leora spoke. You have adapted well, human. Your species is different from mine. You cannot manipulate energy directly, but your creativity allows you to achieve similar results with machines and tools. It is impressive. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. Thanks, I guess that's the human way, using brains and hands together. We can't do magic, but we can invent. Leora nodded slowly. Inventing is valuable. It complements abilities like mine. Perhaps that is why humans survive in many places, even ones hostile to them. Ethan paused, realizing that she was praising humans in her quiet, understated way. You mean, humans are clever enough to survive anywhere? Yes, Leora said simply. Your species learns quickly, adapts quickly, and works together. That is strength. Over time, Ethan also discovered that Leora struggled with simple human tools and customs. She had difficulty using door locks, operating kitchen appliances, and even understanding basic human social gestures. Ethan began helping her, sometimes patiently, sometimes with gentle humor. Here, he said one morning, guiding her hand to adjust a water dispenser. You have to press here first, then turn this knob. It's simple. Leora's eyes widened slightly and she mimicked his movements carefully. This is logical, yet I never thought of it this way. Ethan smiled. That's humans for you. We make things complicated, but we also figure them out. Their bond grew with each passing day. Ethan began to realize that living with Leora was not just about curiosity. It was about learning, understanding, and sharing. He found himself looking forward to their conversations, to the moments when she explained something new about her world, and even to the quiet times when they worked side by side without speaking, each absorbed in their tasks. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the horizon from the apartment window, Leora spoke. Ethan, I have received a communication from my people. They are concerned about my presence here. They believe it may be unsafe for me to remain among humans. Ethan frowned. Unsafe? But why? Your species is unpredictable, she said. Though you are capable and clever, your emotions and actions are difficult for us to predict. Some fear that your interference could disrupt our balance or put me in danger. Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness. I won't let anything happen to you. You're not just some guest, you're my roommate, and more than that, you're my friend. Leora's eyes softened, reflecting gratitude. Friendship is rare among my people. You have shown patience, understanding, and creativity. That is unusual, even admirable. Their conversation was interrupted by an alarm from the colony systems. Ethan's engineer instincts kicked in immediately. Something's wrong with the power grid. I need to check it. Stay here. Leora's eyes glowed faintly. I will assist, but your methods are different from ours. You rely on machines rather than energy. Together, they approached the control panel. Ethan examined the systems, adjusting circuits and rerouting power with human ingenuity. Leora provided guidance on energy flows and stability, using her abilities to stabilize the patterns that Ethan couldn't perceive. It was the first time Ethan fully realized the synergy between human ingenuity and alien abilities. Where machines alone would fail, Leora's energy manipulation complemented his technical knowledge. Where Leora's abilities alone were limited in scope, Ethan's human logic and inventiveness amplified their effectiveness. Hours passed as they worked side by side. The apartment's lights flickered, panels hummed, and energy flowed in patterns that only Leora could fully understand. But together, they stabilized the system, averting a potential crisis. When the last warning light dimmed, Ethan leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. We did it, he said, grinning. Leora's eyes shimmered with soft light. Yes, human, together we succeeded. Your species is impressive. Ethan felt pride swell in his chest, not for himself, but for humans in general. They might not have natural energy manipulation, extraordinary abilities, or alien senses, but they had creativity, adaptability, and the courage to act when needed. That, he realized, was the essence of humanity, the ability to rise to challenges, to combine intellect with effort, and to find solutions even in unfamiliar circumstances. After the excitement, they returned to their usual routines. Ethan continued learning about Leora's culture, and Leora began learning more about human life. Their friendship deepened, built on curiosity, respect, and the recognition that each species brought unique strengths to the table. Late one night, Ethan found himself reflecting on the past week. Walking in on Leora by accident had been shocking, but it had also been the start of something extraordinary. He had witnessed a world beyond human comprehension, learned to interact with a being from another species, and discovered that humans were capable of contributing in ways even aliens could respect. And for the first time, Ethan felt that being human in a galaxy filled with incredible species was not a limitation, it was a gift. Their ingenuity, empathy, and courage allowed them to bridge worlds, solve problems, and create bonds that could survive even the vast distances and differences of the universe. As sleep finally claimed him, Ethan dreamt again of light, energy, and floating symbols. But this time he also dreamt of himself, working alongside Leora, solving problems, and exploring the galaxy together. And he woke with a firm conviction. Humanity had a place among the stars, not as weak observers, but as capable, creative, and courageous participants in a universe waiting to be understood. Ethan woke to a low, urgent vibration throughout the apartment. The soft hum of the colony that normally comforted him now felt like a warning. He rubbed his eyes and sat up, quickly scanning the room. Leora was already moving among her floating objects, her eyes glowing brighter than usual. The colors shifted rapidly, signaling distress. "What's happening?" Ethan asked, alarmed. "The colony's energy grid is unstable," Leora replied, her voice calm but firm. "A failure has occurred in the northern sector. If it is not corrected, it will cascade, affecting multiple sectors and possibly endangering residents." Ethan jumped out of bed, grabbing his toolkit. "We need to fix it. Can we handle it together?" Leora nodded. "Yes, but this will require coordination. Your methods differ from mine. We must combine our strengths." They left the apartment and moved toward the colony control hub. The corridors were dimly lit by emergency lights, and faint alarms echoed through the building. Ethan's mind raced as he analyzed potential solutions. The grid failure was complex. Human engineering alone would struggle, and relying solely on Leora's energy manipulation would not reach all affected areas. They had to work as a team. At the control hub, the problem became clear. Multiple power conduits had overloaded, and energy feedback loops threatened to cause a cascading blackout. Ethan immediately began scanning the circuits, identifying points where rerouting and stabilization were possible. Leora hovered nearby, her hands moving gracefully through the air, interacting with energy patterns humans could not see. "You will need to reroute the main conduit here," she said, pointing toward a glowing intersection of circuits. "I can stabilize the flow, but your adjustments must be precise. One mistake could trigger another failure." Ethan nodded, taking a deep breath. He adjusted the control panels, rerouting power and activating auxiliary circuits. Sparks flew, panels flickered, and alarms blared intermittently. Leora's energy flowed around him, touching the conduits in ways that smoothed surges and prevented critical overloads. Hours passed. Sweat dripped down Ethan's forehead as he worked, muscles aching and fingers moving faster than they had ever moved before. Leora's movements were equally intense, her glowing eyes fixed on patterns only she could perceive. For every step Ethan completed, she stabilized 3 more. For every adjustment she made, he adapted, recalculated, and corrected. At one point, a section of the conduit sparked violently, sending a jolt through the system. Ethan froze for a second, his heart pounding. Leora's hand shot out, fingers tracing the air as a shimmering wave of energy enveloped the conduit, calming it almost instantly. "You saved it," Ethan said, astonished. "Humans are clever," Leora replied. "You anticipate, you adapt. That is valuable." Ethan smiled, feeling a surge of pride. It wasn't just pride for himself, it was pride for humanity. They were not the most powerful species in the galaxy, nor did they possess extraordinary natural abilities like Leora, but their ingenuity, courage, and persistence allowed them to achieve remarkable things, even here, on a colony threatened by disaster. Working together, they continued to stabilize the grid. Ethan's technical skills complemented Leora's energy manipulation perfectly. Where he calculated, she harmonized. Where she projected, he executed. Slowly the alarms subsided, lights returned to normal, and the hum of the colony steadied. Finally, Ethan leaned against the console, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it," he said, voice shaking from adrenaline and relief. "Yes," Leora replied, her glowing eyes dimming to a calm, soft blue. "Together we succeeded. You humans, you are remarkable." Ethan felt a deep satisfaction. In that moment, he understood the HFY truth. Humans might seem ordinary compared to alien abilities, but they could rise to challenges, combine their creativity with courage, and make a difference in ways others could not. As they left the control hub, the colony slowly returned to normal. Residents emerged from their homes, murmuring in relief and gratitude. Ethan realized that while Leora's abilities were extraordinary, it was the combination of human ingenuity and alien power that had truly saved the day. Over the next few days, Ethan and Leora worked together on smaller projects around the colony, reinforcing systems and optimizing energy flows. They became known among the residents as a team, humans and aliens working together to maintain peace, stability, and progress. One afternoon, while observing a sector that Leora had recently stabilized, Ethan spoke. "You know, I think humans have something unique. We can't see energy like you, but we figure out ways to work with it anyway. We adapt, create, and find solutions where others might fail. Leora's eyes shimmered thoughtfully. Yes, that is why you survive and thrive. Your species, creativity, and persistence are your strengths. You complement abilities like mine in ways that are unexpected and valuable. Ethan felt a smile spread across his face. So even if we're not the strongest, we can still make a difference. Exactly, Leora said, and you have proven it. Their friendship continued to grow based on mutual respect, shared experiences, and the recognition of each other's strengths. Ethan helped Leora understand human customs, while she taught him about her species, energy-based perception, and ways of thinking. They became a living example of interstellar cooperation, showing that humans could not only survive among aliens, they could excel. Weeks later, as Ethan walked through the colony plaza, he reflected on everything that had happened since he accidentally walked in on Leora. What had initially been shocking, even intimidating, had become an incredible opportunity to learn, to grow, and to participate in something larger than himself. He thought about the energy patterns, the floating objects, the crises they had averted, and the way humans and aliens had worked together. For the first time, he felt truly proud of what it meant to be human. Not because of strength, speed, or natural power, but because of ingenuity, adaptability, and the courage to act when it mattered most. That evening, Ethan and Leora stood together on the observation deck, watching the twin moons rise over the colony. The sky was filled with stars, each one a distant world with untold possibilities. Leora's eyes glimmered as she looked at the horizon. "You have changed since you arrived," she said softly. "You are no longer just a curious human. You are a participant, a problem solver, a friend." Ethan chuckled. "I guess that's what happens when you live with an alien who floats objects around your apartment." Leora tilted her head, colors shifting in amusement. "Perhaps, but you have proven yourself. Humans can rise to challenges. You can make a difference in this galaxy." Ethan felt warmth in his chest. The journey that began with accidental intrusion had become a defining chapter of his life. He had learned that humans could achieve incredible things, not because they were the strongest, but because they dared to act, to think, and to adapt. And as the twin moons reflected on the calm surface of the colony lake, Ethan realized that being human among the stars was not a limitation. It was an opportunity to rise, to create, and to leave a mark on the universe. He looked at Leora and smiled. "Then let's keep doing it together, humans and aliens making a difference wherever we can." Leora's eyes glowed softly in agreement. "Yes, Ethan, together." And so, on a distant colony under alien skies, a human engineer and his extraordinary roommate continued to explore, learn, and solve problems, proving that human ingenuity, courage, and empathy could shine even among the wonders of the galaxy. They were different yet united, ordinary yet extraordinary, and in that they showed the universe what humans could truly achieve.